What's up, horror fans? It's Danny from the Cast, and it's Monday, so we are talking about HBOMAX's The Baby. This is episode 6, The Rage, directed by Faraz Shariat, written by Untruly Felicia King, and I've made no bones about it. This is my favorite new series, and this episode, yeah, it just keeps it going. Before we get deep into the review, give our channel a like and a subscribe. Pete and I and our daughters, Pete's daughter Pepper, my daughter Charlotte, we are reviewing Stranger Things 4. We're doing it episode by episode. You could watch Pete and Pepper's review of episode 1 now. Charlotte and I will have episodes 2 and 3 up tomorrow. But aside from that, we are here to talk about HBO Max's The Baby. So episode 5, The Baby, gave us the origins of the baby. The baby was born out of a loveless marriage, a forced birth, effectively. A woman, Helen, tried to get away from her unhappy marriage to go and live with her lover, who we find out is the younger Mrs. Eaves, and she is kidnapped, Helen. She's forced to give birth to the child. She's forced to try to raise this baby by her husband and his family. She ends up committing a murder. We think it's 2 murders. We find out this episode that actually one of those murders, we thought she murdered her husband by kicking him down the stairs. Turns out he might be alive. Helen finally runs off with Mrs. Eaves, but she's haunted and stalked by the presence of the baby, and she ends up walking out into the water and basically drowning. That's what we're left to believe. So now we come back in this episode, and Natasha and Mrs. Eaves are basically like out of it. They're unconscious. They wake up at the commune, and Barbara has taken the baby. That is Natasha's mother, played by Sinead Cusack. And so this episode is called The Rage, and there's so many ways that you could take that. There's the obvious that we see with the rage and the anger of the baby itself. We get to see for the first time, aside from just the illusion of maybe the baby is causing the deaths of certain characters throughout the series, we see full on, for the first time, really the power of the baby in this episode. Natasha and Mrs. Eaves are trying to get the hell out of this commune, and they basically want Barbara, just give us the baby and we're getting out of here. And Barbara's like, no, we're not giving it to you. You're too angry. You can't bring this type of anger into a baby's life. Meanwhile, the baby, it seems, commands the children, led by a young girl named Sally, to take the baby away from Barbara, and the kids run off with the baby. And what you get, and Charlotte actually was watching this with me, and you get, for the first 15 minutes of this episode, a really creepy, almost Village of the Damned style, Children of the Corn style, children leading the revolution. And there's this crazy scene where they follow the kids into the den, and Sally's sitting there holding the baby, and the rest of the kids are behind her, and they're all scribbling, they're all drawing, and what looks to be, an image of all the things that we've seen so far. And they're yelling, they look possessed. They're yelling, "Mama's in the water, Mama's in the water." They start stabbing each other with their pens and with their pencils. Like, it looks just, it's so creepy. Like, Charlotte actually looked over at me and was like, "Kids are so much creepier than adults." And I was like, yeah, they are, kid. This was really, so the title of the episode, The Rage, you see the baby is angry. The baby wants its mother back. Now, obviously, Helen, we are led to believe, is dead, drowned. Mrs. Eaves, it's been probably decades since this has happened. But this leads, so not only do the kids start stabbing themselves. The adults try to break it all up. The kids turn on the adults. They're stabbing the adults with pencils and pens, and it's all gross and creepy. There's another scene where Barbara and the other women from the commune track the kids down to the water's edge, and they start pelting the adults with rocks. There's this scene where Sally has a rock over her head, and she's about to drop it and kill Barbara. They end up in the water. She's trying to drown Barbara. It is, again, this is probably the most all-out horror scene that we've seen in this episode. There's been, obviously, spatterings of horror throughout, both supernatural and real-world horror, like last episode. This is the first time where we are seeing the baby as this kind of possessive force that can take control of not just a person, but a group. And it's commanding the children to do these terrible things. Bobbi and Natasha's sister, played by Amber Grappy, her and Natasha, Michelle DeSwart, and Barbara, yes, the mom and the two sisters, they basically run off together, and they lock themselves in this, farmhouse, cabin, whatever it is, to get away from the kids who are trying to basically kill them. And you get a lot of other rage that comes out. This episode is the first one to delve into flashbacks of Natasha and Bobbi's childhood. We find out that Barbara just up and left. They had hinted at that, but we actually get to see it in like a flashback style. And Barbara makes this point where, to her, it must have felt like something that was good to say, but it just came across, especially if you're Bobbi, it comes across as so belittling, where she talks about how she tried to put up with living this normal life with her husband, Lyle, who she obviously didn't love. And so she tells Natasha, that's why we had Bobbi, so that you would have somebody to look after and somebody to love you. And, like, imagine if you're Bobbi and you realize, like, your only reason for existing was to make your older sister happy because your mother is so unhappy. At the same time this is happening, Bobbi gets a phone call while she's on the run. This is where the British humor of this show is fantastic, because they're on the run, running from these kids who are trying to kill them and stab them and throw rocks at them. And she picks up the phone, and it's the counselor who she was meeting with about adopting a baby. And the adoption counselor tells Bobbi, we think you and your partner are great. We love your enthusiasm, ... But we think you need 6 more months we'll reevaluate you in 6 months to see if you're okay still to adopt a child. And Bobbi flips out. She's like, so wait, let me get this straight. You are telling me that I'm perfect, that, like, I want a baby so much that it's actually working against me, so you'd almost rather adopt a kid to parents that don't want a baby? And it's really, it's rage-inducing. Like, for me, I'm watching it, and I'm like, it's just, you watch what it takes for somebody. You would think, and again, I'm not trying to get very political, but it's very hard on this show, where the last episode dealt with a situation where a woman tried to flee an unhappy marriage and was basically kidnapped back and forced to birth a child that she did not want, and that she was impregnated with almost against her will, in a, not a rape scene, but, just a step above a rape scene. And with everything that's going on and the whole abortion debate and everything else, to then deny a woman an adoption, even, and with the reason being, you really, really want this child, and that is confusing us. So wait 6 months. So we have this system where it's like, if you don't want a baby, you're forced to have a baby. But if you really, really want a baby, there's something wrong with you and we need to wait. And that is just an absolutely infuriating system. And I get that this show is based in the UK, and I'm sitting here in the United States, and I'm in New York, which is, very different from other states, but it's just infuriating where, this show, back-to-back episodes, we had a woman forced to give birth to a child that she didn't want, and in the next episode, a woman who desperately wants to be a mother is told she's not allowed to be a mother. It's very, very infuriating. There's also some other offbeat comedy scenes in here. There's a scene where Barbara makes Bobbi and Natasha wear this one giant t-shirt where they're stuck together, and they're forced to tell each other they love them, even though, again, now imagine you're Bobbi. You desperately want a baby. You are told you want the baby too much and you need to wait 6 months. And meanwhile, here's your sister who hates children, doesn't want to be a mother at all, and she has this baby, and she is in a position where she's almost a mother, not by choice, just by accident. It is extra infuriating. Bobbi, Amber Grappy, really, to me, was the standout of this episode. She also has this, where she's an aspiring magician, and she has this great scene where she's trying to distract the baby with all these magic tricks. She just is phenomenal in this episode. So kudos to Amber Grappy. She stole this episode for me. And I really sympathized and empathized with her character. There was a lot to take in there. And it's the first half of this episode is pure Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned style horror. And then the second half of this episode is more psychological, getting to the root of the family dynamic here. And it's horrifying in a different way, and it's rage-inducing in a different way. So that's what makes this show so great, is that in the same episode, you can do possession-style folk horror, and then snap, and in the same episode, you're dealing with societal horror and just characters going through psychological torment on behalf of other characters and on behalf of the system itself. The show's so good. And listen, after 2 episodes, I thought I was the only person watching this show. The last 2 videos I've posted, I've had 20 comments from people. Keep them coming. I love that we can talk about this show. I love that I spent a week replying to comments. And if you disagree with me about things that I'm saying, I get it that, being a guy, I might have takes that are different than other people, but I've been loving the conversation in the comment section, so keep that coming. Also, great song choice to put Motherless Child in the middle of the episode. Well done. Well done by the creators there. In one of these, we also get a Mrs Eaves flashback to her relationship with Helen, and then she wakes up, and in this really haunting scene, she wakes up in the middle of the woods, and she's surrounded by the bodies of all of the victims of the baby, all of the women who've taken the baby and then tried to get rid of it and ended up dying. She comes across in this vision the body of Helen, and Helen wakes up with water in her mouth and says Jack is alive. Jack was her husband, who we saw in episode 5. We thought that she killed him by pushing him down the stairs. He hits his head. We think, okay, maybe he's going to bleed out, and that's, head trauma, and that's it. He's dead. But apparently he's alive. And that, sets us up for what is going to happen. There's 2 episodes left. Watch the preview on HBO Max. They give a preview of episode 7, and you know, Mrs. Eaves talks about how she found the baby about a month after Helen died, and basically all these women who find the baby's looking to be loved and treated right, and these women end up failing the baby, so to speak, and the baby, you know, moves on from them, and by moves on from them, basically they die, and the baby moves on to a new host, almost, because, you know, there's almost this type of parasite to host relationship between the baby, being that Natasha can't get rid of it, or, you know, and all these other women have died trying. I don't know what else to tell you. There's 2 episodes left. I'm super excited to see where this show is going to end up. Really loved Amber Grappy in this episode as Bobbi. I'm really hoping that we see more of her, because where this episode ends is basically Mrs. Eaves stumbles out. She says that she's had a heart attack, but she doesn't. She's in bad shape. She was wrestling with the kids and getting stabbed at. Mrs. Eaves is in bad shape. She passes out in the back seat of the car right next to the baby in a very funny but haunting image, and Natasha drives off, and the episode ends with them leaving the commune. So probably to go and find Jack, the baby's father, and we'll see what happens with that. Until then, yeah, let us know what you think of the baby. Let us know where you think this show is going to end up, and come back next Sunday night for episode 7 of 8, and Monday for my review of that episode. And while you're on the channel, check out some of our videos. We have tons of Stranger Things coverage coming up. Plus, we have other reviews. We have an author interview. Pete and I sat down with Brian Asman, who wrote Man, Fuck This House. He's done some screenplays. He's done some short films. He's done some novellas. Super cool guy. That interview is up on the channel as well. Yeah, so check that out. Hopefully you give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.